Welcome back to another episode of Not Your Average Conversations,
Not Your Average Perspectives,
Not Your Average Black Girls. So, y'all, we have a special treat for you with this episode. So, Jordan will not be joining us for this episode. However, in her place, we have Mama Pittman, Miss Val. So, y'all are in for a treat because this is going to be good. But before we get into our topic for today, I'm going to let Candice tell you guys about our Not Your Average Black Girl shout out.
All right, you guys. So our Not Your Average Black Girl shout out for the day is LaShawn Flowers and Shanita Vickers. They have opened the first Black-owned Shell gas station in Hollywood, Florida. LaShawn and Shanita, they are not new to the business world. They previously owned a hair salon and a local bar/nightclub, but unfortunately, those businesses had to close due to COVID. So the closures led them into pursuing a gas station purchase because gas stations are typically more stable. And so they were able to secure a 2-for-1 deal on 2 Shell gas stations. Their first Shell gas station is located at 2501 North University Drive, Hollywood, Florida, 33034. So if you are in that area, I highly suggest you go and patronize their business. Let it be known that this is a Black business, Black-owned gas station, and kind of help keep them running. And their second gas station that they plan to open in 2021 will possibly be in West Palm Beach. So be on the lookout for that.
Well, that sounds cool. I'm glad to know about that. I mean, I'm not in Florida, but I mean, still, that's
Somebody in
cool.
our listening might be, you never
Yeah,
know.
that's pretty cool. Gotta check them out if I'm ever in that part of Florida. I don't know. Anywho, we are gonna talk about some really interesting stuff today, y'all. Since we are blessed with Jordan's mom's presence, we're going to talk about like some generational differences just with dating, politics, colorism, all the good stuff that, I feel like we all talk about on Twitter. We're like, well, they didn't do this back in the day or whatever. So the first thing we're going to get into is dating, the differences between dating now, maybe for our generation, and then dating for, our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation. Since you are our guest, Miss Val, I'm gonna let you kick it off and just tell us like how you feel like dating was, for you when you were in your 20s or 30s. I don't know what age you got married at. So
Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to share my thoughts today. I'm excited about this. Dating, I'm not even sure if you all really date. Do you all really date anymore?
I think so. I think so. I mean, I consider myself to have dated. Yeah.
Yeah, we just starting out with fire. I see Miss
Yeah,
Val.
well,
Taking shots.
well, dating was so different. Megan, as a matter of fact, I've been married since my entire adult life. I got married at 22, and I had just turned 22.
Ooh.
So I turned 22 in October and got married in December. So
Wow.
I always say my husband and I, we grew up together. And I guess our dating was a little bit different. We dated for about a little bit over a year before we got married. But dating back then was different. The guy came to pick you up. He would plan the date. He paid for the date. It was no questions about who was going to pay for the date. It wasn't anything about we're going to split the cost or things like that. So, he would call. We didn't have FaceTime, so we had to call you all the time and you would talk, write letters. We didn't have text messaging either, back in the 80s. So it was a lot different. So you spent a lot of time together, or every chance you could, you would spend together. And the guy really went out of his way to show you he cared. He made it clear he cared, and he would say he cared. Today, it seems like it's a lot different. I don't
Do
think
you
all those
feel
things
like
happen.
do you feel like the men back then were better at like planning the dates, or did you have to like to guide them and tell them where they could possibly take you, or if they told you they were taking you on a date that they already have it figured out?
Usually, they would already have it figured out. But I mean, we didn't have so many options. You either went to dinner and went to a movie, or occasionally, now I grew up in the South, in the country. So occasionally we would have concerts somewhere nearby. So we would
Mhm.
either, if it was a concert, then that was a special date. A lot of planning went into it to make sure you could get there. but it was mostly just dinner and a movie or hanging out with friends. And then over time, maybe going to the few clubs that we had. But we didn't have all the options you all have now. We didn't go on vacation together or to the Maldives or Hawaii. We didn't do things like that. We didn't have the funds, nor did we have, it wasn't accessible, or it seemed like it wasn't. We didn't know it was. So it
Mhm.
was a lot different. But it was
Yeah.
no question about it. But look, the men were still the same. They would cheat. They might would have multiple women, so it was just harder to catch them then, or maybe easier. I don't know. Maybe it was easier to catch them because they didn't, they didn't have multiple phones. They only had one house phone. Nobody had a cell
Mhm.
phone. So the family probably only had one car. So if you saw that car in some place it wasn't supposed to be, and it wasn't his mom or dad, then you knew it had to be him. So it was a lot easier, I guess, to catch him cheating. But they still did some of the same things, and we women did some of the same things too. So I
Okay.
think it's a
So
lot
some
different.
differences, but not too many.
Yeah, not too
But
many.
okay.
Yeah, I definitely I think, I mean, I haven't really experienced this like in my current relationship, but with the expressing like your feelings and like saying how you feel and everything, I definitely can see where that would probably have been way off, cuz nowadays like I think with our generation is, I don't know, it's borderline like not cool, I guess. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but it's almost like it's, you're viewed as weak, I think, for a lot of men to like make it known, how you feel. Like it's,
Mhm.
I guess it's lame or whatever for you to want to be with one person. Which is crazy to me, but I
Yeah,
think that
that
goes on a
definitely,
lot.
I agree, Megan. Like, that's definitely out there because I feel like, and I talked about this before on a previous episode where I feel like the way that a lot of men are being raised is so parallel to the way women are being raised. And so with men, a lot of times they are strongly encouraged to like date around, to play games, to not settle down or whatever. And women are encouraged to do the exact opposite in most cases. So I feel like that plays like a huge role into why we have that issue where it's like we're always butting heads with, these men because it's like, well, I was told I need to get married and then he was told he needed to stay single. Like, so it just
Yeah.
doesn't really work out. So I don't know if that was a thing for you guys in this vow, like back in the day.
I think back in the day, everybody, I mean, like I said, the men played around, and I think it was almost considered to be a natural thing that the man would play around. He would kind of
Oh.
be a playboyish type, and the woman was taught to, you're gonna find the right guy and you're gonna settle down and get married. And so I guess the same mindset, but now I have this discussion all the time. I think there have been a strategic action over the years to change that, that whole, I guess, uh, family idea, because you don't see or hear the family idea as much anymore. Since the men are no longer in the home the way they used to be,
Yeah, that's
then
true.
when
Hmm.
boys are growing up in the house and probably hear a lot of negative talk about the man that's not there, they're really not taught how to be a man. And so
Yeah.
they see the woman carrying the family. And so maybe a lot of them just really don't know how, to really be a man, because that we've lost that dynamics. It's changed.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I think that's what you're seeing a lot of today.
I would have to agree. I think and we touched on this before, but I think just the percentage of the single parent homes compared to once upon a time has tremendously affected everything about our generation, especially for men. Well, and I could say for women too, because I mean I'm not like this, but I do know a lot of women who are raised by a single mom, and they have very much so like just this bitterness, towards men. And it's, it's not something that they should hold on to, but at the same time, it's like, well, I can almost see why
Mhm.
they feel that way, especially if they kind of had like the kind of father who like, lived well, did his thing, but never helped, and the mom struggled. They have like this bitterness towards men and they don't trust them. And so when one who may know how to treat them does come along, it's like they're very apprehensive because they feel like, oh, well, I know this won't last. Eventually his true colors will come out. So I think that all of that plays a huge role. I was over here cracking up when Miss Val was talking about like going to the Maldives and stuff. Because I was thinking, I was like, people do have those expectations. Like, I know a lot of girls who are like, well, if he can't fly me out, I don't want to be together. Like expensive trips, like Bali, like Miss Val said, the Maldives, Hawaii. Hawaii is not cheap.
Yeah, well, I
They
know.
want to go some of everywhere, but it's like no real
Yeah, no connection.
commitment. Yeah, no
Right.
real connection.
Right.
I feel like
Um,
social media has caused that, has given people this idea in their heads that whatever they see some of these other, influencers, quote unquote, doing, it's like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. That's the life I'm supposed to be living. And, if he can't give me that, then he got to go, sort of
Agreed.
mentality. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's not, girl, that's not realistic. You do not live that life that people live.
Well, and also,
You
you
know
have to
that.
take into consideration that, like, some of these influencers or, celebrities that you see doing these things have their own money. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's not a
Mm-hmm.
matter of like, oh, he, flew her out to this vacation. She could get there on her own. They just both happen to go, I think versus with normal people like our generation, they're expecting these average, guys who don't make six figures to be able to afford these elaborate vacations just for them to give them the time of day. I'm not even talking about like married people, like just people who are dating, you don't even know if it's going to last.
And the thing is, you also don't know what these influencers are doing to get what they have. So it's like you have no idea if they're really making any money. Some of these people could be in tremendous amount of debt, just trying to appear as if they're living a certain lifestyle. And you really just don't know.
Oh,
That's the
that's
thing about social
true.
media.
Yeah.
Everything is face value.
Yeah.
So you have no way of knowing.
I think they replaced true love and commitment with things. It's the big
Mm-hmm.
gifts, so I can flaunt it on social media, but there's no real true love and commitment, no real connection. And so once all of that gets old, then they move on to the next one. And I think that maybe is some of the reason why we're not seeing these relationships, really blossom and grow. And just thinking about it, I was thinking about something my dad used to say to me all the time. My dad was born in the 30s, and when you think about a village, and so let me see if I can make this tie in. He would always say if there was a woman on the street whose husband had been taken away from the home for whatever reason, then the men would never let that woman and those children go without. Somebody would take that family in. So the men were really truly the anchor of that community, and they made sure that the women and the children were cared for. So the man's role was really critical and important because back in those days, oftentimes the women didn't work outside of the house. It was the men that took care of things. And so over time, strategically, those things, they've been torn down in our communities. And so our young men, they're not seeing that kind of man, that man that would not only take care of his family, but the neighbor's family, in the time of that man's absence. And, my dad would say during that time, they would, like today, they would put men in jail for no real reason. And so you would make sure that those, the family didn't go hungry and make sure the kids had what they needed. So that was in the 30s. But again, so today we replace that with these shallow gifts of red bottoms and Louis Vuittons and the trip to somewhere, and we look good on social media, but then there's no real substance there. There's no
Mm-hmm.
real commitment there.
Yeah, I agree. That well, let that be a lesson to all you listeners who shamefully were going in on some of these women who are doing that period challenge. Miss Val, I don't know if you know what the period challenge was. I don't even know how to explain it, but I just know that I know a lot of people, like sadly, who were really shaming a lot of these women on social media who are doing the period challenge, posting their wedding band set or engagement ring or whatever. I just saw so many comments where people were like, oh, he doesn't love you. He bought you a cluster, or he doesn't love you. Look how small it is. And I was like, wow, like, y'all
Yeah.
are savage. And I just thought that was so sad because I was like, it might get you a laugh or a like or a comment or whatever. But I was just like, in all seriousness, how sad is it that, oh, so y'all think these women shouldn't be doing the challenge? You're saying, oh, I wouldn't do that if my ring looked like that. Like, that lady could have the best marriage known to man, but
Mm-hmm.
because you don't think her ring is what it should be, or it's a cluster, which apparently I know nothing about, like diamonds, because I didn't know until about 2 years ago that clusters was supposed to be like a bad thing. But just, I just thought that was so superficial. I was like, oh my God, this is why some of y'all don't have a man, ain't never gonna have a man. Like, if you have one, he not gonna treat you right because y'all focus on the wrong things. Like,
Absolutely.
I thought that was so nasty. I was like, oh my God, shaming these people.
Yeah, that's great. And again, we're going back to material things. So, oh, your value, how much you love me is shown in the value of whatever you give me. But that is
Mm-hmm.
not going to last very long. And look, the one with the cluster, they got money in the bank, so they'll be okay. But the
Yep.
one with the big solitaire, they're still trying to pay on the ring, and that's all they can do. So,
Just another
yeah,
bill.
another bill. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, outside of dating, Dice, there's anything else you wanted to say on dating?
Not really. I was just gonna say I know one of the things that our generation has probably had to deal with at least more openly, I would think, than your generation is about, is the whole gender terms and
Oh
sexuality.
yeah.
I personally have never had to deal with, like, I never dated anybody who wasn't sure of their gender. I have unknowingly dated a person who was confused about their sexuality, unbeknownst to me. um right, so it happens. Luckily, me and that person did end before they started being out there. But I found out from them later that the reason why, a major part of the reason why the relationship ended, is because they discovered that they were gay, for lack of a better term. I can't put it any other way than what it was. Discovered they were gay. And so, it's just one of those things that I feel like it's becoming pretty commonplace in our generation. And I'm not really sure. I know back in the day, they didn't seem to talk about homosexuality, or, men wanting to be women or women wanting to be men. So I wonder if that was ever any sort of issue or discussion back then.
No, not. I don't ever remember. Back then, I mean, well, we're making it seem like it was in the 20s or the 30s, but back in the 80s, if a guy was gay, chances are he didn't want anyone. So it was one or two ways. You would never know, or it was very obvious. He was either flaming or completely in the closet. And I think it was the same for the
Mm-hmm.
women. Either it was obvious or completely in the closet. Today, and look, I have nothing against anybody. I think everybody has a right to be whoever they choose to be. But I'm just confused about most of this. I mean, it's too much. It's too many letters. We keep getting a new letter added all the time. And I this whole fluid thing and all of these different, I like this one and that one and all of them, and it doesn't matter. And so this is a lot. And I think this is one more thing to complicate the community and to complicate our children that are already trying to just, I think, get through the world now with the challenges that they're facing. And so now, not, having two mamas at home or two daddies at home, or a mama that used to be a man, and that it's just a lot, y'all. So for you all that's dating, or I know you ladies are engaged or almost married. So, but I can imagine for the single ladies and men that's out there, it's almost unfair. I think it's just,
Mm-hmm.
I think people deserve to know the truth right up front. And so if
Yeah.
you're any one of these and you're out there, be honest, let people know who you are, and then let them decide if this is something they want to be a part of. Because I don't think it's fair to pull people in, making them think you're somebody that you initially wasn't and now you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all I got to say. Everybody be who you want to be. Be happy. Life is short, so you got a right to be happy, but be honest and tell
Yeah,
people
I
right off
agree.
the bat.
I
Yeah,
agree.
I agree with the honesty tip for sure. I know that and I know I've heard several people say that, one of the reasons that like transgender people typically feel like they have to earn your trust or they need to trust you before they can be honest is because of like hate crimes and everything. And so I get that. Like I get I feel like you got to move smart. You got to make sure that the person you're potentially pursuing isn't like one of those people that would do something like that. Get to know them before you just tell all your business. But no, I agree. I've seen lots of stories where people are in relationships for years and years and years. Then it's time to get married and you just now find out that that person is transgender. And I do believe that, once you get that serious, I mean, disclosure should have already taken place. You
Mm-hmm.
can't voluntarily sign someone else up for something that they don't know how they feel about yet because you never put it on the table. But I think that a part of the reason why it's so difficult now, I always put like sexuality and sexual identity into this box where I feel like it's kind of one of those things that has always been around, but I think that it was kept so like bottled in for so long that now unfortunately people are just now starting to learn and talk about it, and so it's going to take so long. I kind of in my mind I kind of look at it as, well, if black people still going through what they going through with trying to be accepted, then I know we got just as long of a way to go, if not longer, when it comes to anything with sexuality or gender roles or whatever.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
It
But I
ain't
think
going nowhere no
we
time
covered that
soon.
dating pretty well.
No, we did. That was fun. Um, I know one of my favorite topics in the world is politics. Like I tell people all the time, I don't know when. At some point in my life, I'm gonna make it on The View. Um, if the show is still around, because I don't think they're letting any 20-year-olds on right now. But I'm gonna make it on there one day. But I'm curious to know, like in the '80s and everything, Miss Val, with politics, like and just like activism and everything, how was it then? Because I've always been curious to know, like, if there was a huge difference, if it's the same, if it's always been this intense, just how was it when you were coming up?
It was actually this intense in the 80s. And for a while there, I thought things had calmed down. So I'll say in the early, thousands, it seemed like we were on a good path. But now you realize that we really hadn't come very far. Actually, we maybe have digressed and gone beyond, back to the 60s and before. So politics have always been an issue. But I will say, that I believe candidates were a little bit more sincere. Now we have a lot more of, what not as sincere, not genuine candidates that's willing to pretend to be Democrat to get Democrats vote, and then when they get in their position, then they vote totally opposite of what their constituents thought or expected. So
Hmm.
it's always been a tricky game, but I feel people were a little bit more on the up and up back then. Maybe a lot of activism even during that time. Education has always been an issue. Education will forever be an issue. The difference then, I think, was parents really tried to educate at home and not just depending on the school system to educate. Now we're just putting the total burden on our school systems to
Hmm.
educate our kids, and we're not even sending disciplined kids to school. So it's kind of hard to educate somebody that
Hmm.
don't know how to sit down and be quiet, or if they're having some kind of medical issue that needs to be addressed, and they fail to do that, make sure that
Yeah.
they receive the care that they need, mental health or physical health care, and then medications come into that too. Some children really need to be on medication, and not necessarily something dealing with the hyperactivity or things like that, but just really health medications that parents can't afford to get the children. So all of
Hmm.
those things come into play, and then let's not mention kids being hungry, and that has been an issue before now. And so it surprises me to know that we still have children out there that are hungry because so many programs have been put in place over the years to make sure children are not hungry, that
Mm-hmm.
they can get fed, free lunches, uh, the WIC programs and food stamps and all of these other things. And then I think food is cheaper and it's a lot more plentiful. Now, it might not be the best food, but it seems as though just anywhere you go now, you can buy something to eat. Even the Dollar Tree sells pretty
Yeah.
good food, name
Yeah.
brand, food. So,
Yeah.
because I go in there and buy things myself. So, I mean, look, Del Monte canned goods. That's a good canned good. So to me, there's, I almost find it like unbelievable, but I know it happens. I know there's some parents out there that are truly struggling. And if you're only being paid $7.50 an hour, and you might even be working two jobs, but that makes it real hard to provide a roof over their heads and provide food. And so I understand, but it's been this way, Meagan, and it seems like it's not going to get any better. And you know what's hurting now? We used to have gardens back in those days, and there would be not necessarily a community garden, but there would be multiple people in the community that had gardens, and the
Mm.
women could go over. Well, the families could go over and get tomatoes and greens and cabbage and peppers, and then the men had cattle. They would have hogs and cows, and every year, a certain time of year, they would slaughter maybe a hog and a cow, and they would give this neighbor some and that neighbor some. And so you had those options. And today we don't see a lot of that anymore. The garden thing is kind of picking up, but not like it should. And so I think that makes a big difference too when it comes to politics. And the people that are put in place make sure that they know what their communities really truly need, and they fight to make sure that they get them. And so we're not getting that all the time. Or oftentimes the people that we put in those positions just don't have that ability to maneuver and manipulate that whole political arena to get what their constituents need. And so I've seen that in small towns. In a small town, actually, where I went to school, they elected a lady that was just she her intentions and her heart is there, but her ability to do what's needed is just not there. So that could be a problem. So politics, it has always been an issue, and it will always look like be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love politics. I tell Jordan and Dice all the time that like my views could not be more opposite from this girl, but I love, love, love me some Megan McCain
Oh, I thought you
because
was going to say Candice Owens. I was going to choke you to
no.
this cone.
No, I just love I love me some Megan McCain. I think it's partially because like I think we're very similar with the force that we use like when it comes to our standpoints on things. And I just love how she won't back down from like
Yeah.
what she believes. I love how she sticks to it no matter the press that she gets for it, because they always seem to like, it's very different. Men, if they're forceful or say what they think on politics, they're strong, they're a good leader. And then anytime that the women do it, they're emotional. Oh, they were out of control on the show today. So it's just, two completely different narratives. But I definitely think that with our generation, I feel like I've observed some people become more aware than they maybe were in the past. I think especially with young Black people, that when Obama was in office, I think a lot of people got comfortable and didn't feel the need to educate themselves or stay up to date on maybe who some of their local elected officials were. But now, that we're a lot more unhappy. I feel like I've seen a major turn, and people just know so much about, okay, you need to register to vote by this date, and your local election is this, but then the overall one is this. I didn't see that before, but now that I see it, um, I'm pretty excited about it. But I was curious to know if it was always that way. I feel like we're in a unique time right now.
It might be, well, it's unique for your generation, but it's an old, we've been here before. And so, look,
Mm.
politics play into everything. And I think politics play into what you all are doing. And I really applaud. I'm excited about what you all are doing. And so I don't want to say anything that's going to hinder what you're trying to accomplish here. But just remember, everybody, I'm a guest. So I won't be back on here in a while. Probably never. So what I'm about to say. But, Megan, back in the day, Black people stuck together.
Mm-hmm.
We stuck together a lot better than what I'm seeing today. When I see Blacks for Trump, I'm like, who are these people? Where
Well,
are they from?
same.
Actually, when I see anybody for Trump, I say, who are these people and where are they from? Because you couldn't be that stupid. I mean, you know what? You can hate me all day, but I can't imagine what makes you think I'll destroy this country and I'll be okay just as long as they hurt. If you destroy the country, we all gonna hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that I'm seeing and these Black folks that say Trump is for, I mean, just please shut, just I can't imagine. But like I said, I can't imagine anybody. But we stuck together. I think the one thing that Black people don't understand when it comes to politics is it's not going to always be your way, and it might not always be what you want at that time. But we're going to have to stick together as a whole, and your time will come. Whatever your immediate interests and needs are, they might not be addressed right now. But as long as we get the right politician in place, we can put that in front of him or her and push that cause. But if we're not willing to stick together because I don't like him, I don't like her, well, she's this and she's that. Duh. They all have some faults. And nobody,
Right.
unless you go and run for that political position, and what you might be thinking to be so important might only be important for you, a very few people. So we got to understand that the bigger good. It's a bigger good, and it's for the all of us. It's what's going to benefit all of us the most, and not just one little pocket of people. And so I think you all got to get into politics. We need you. We need your creativity. We need your energy. We need your vision, because in order for things to go forward in a more positive way, for I can't believe we're still fighting to get people to accept us for who we are. So now they're to the point. Let's just kill them all then, huh? Since they won't,
Mm-hmm.
we tried conforming, that wasn't enough. So what now? Let's just kill everybody. So everybody that don't look like us. So I think you all got a fight on your hands. I think you have a fight on your hands. I honestly thought that things was changing. I thought this
Mm-hmm.
newer generation, this younger generation, would be a little bit more understanding and acceptance. So when I see these young folks that are against minorities, that it hurts, because I'm thinking, wow, I'm expecting a change here. We're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. You wouldn't be here if we hadn't been here. And so, you all just, I'm glad you love it, because we need you. And I agree. I like Megan McCain too. I think that she's a good role model.
Yeah.
Believe in what you believe in and stand firm on it, and don't let anybody sway you in any way, because we see, social media, the media as a whole, they really like to prod and try to, break you down, and so you got to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
You can't wear your feelings on your shoulder. You got to be ready to fight back and just stand fast on whatever you believe. So, but we need younger people in politics. We really do.
Yeah, I hope to do it one day. I really do. Dice, how do you feel about I've never really heard you express any type of interest in politics.
I would say I don't have like a very strong interest. I have more interest now than before. I'll say that. Like ever since Trump got in office, I paid a lot more attention to what's going on, because I think in my adult life, he was the first president to make me nervous. So I was like, let me see what this man is doing, because I don't know about this, So that's when I kind of just woke up. But I will say I had an interest more so in activism. Politics for me, I don't really like either party, if I'm being honest, because I feel like they're both flawed in their own ways. And
Mm-hmm.
I watch people argue each other down all the time on social media about why they're a Republican, why they're a Democrat. And I'm just like, if you go and you take even just 10 minutes and do a little research on both of those parties, you will see why both of them have issues. And so I'm just like, yeah, I don't really identify too much with any of that. I guess some people would call that a liberal, but whatever. I'm just like, I'm kind of in
Be
the middle.
liberal. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm kind of in the middle with it, but I do like the activism part of politics. When the Black Lives Matter movement first started, I did go to a protest, and I will say it was life changing in a way because I would always read about protesting and the civil rights movement and that kind of stuff, but to actually like be a part of that moment was just a totally different experience. And when I tell y'all, like it was hot, you had to sit on the asphalt. Like I was like, could you imagine like doing this, especially back in like the 50s and the 60s? And people used to really dress. I'm talking about you have on heels, you have on your church clothes, you have the hat, and then turning around and sitting on asphalt and then turning around and having, officers hold you down and all kind of stuff. I just could not imagine. Cause I'm like the little baby protest I did. It was nothing in comparison to what they did. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I just feel like for me, being out there, putting your viewpoint out there, even if it's not necessarily political, but when, injustice is injustice at the end of the day. And so being able to, watch so many Black men and also Black women, but clearly primarily Black men, be attacked by these police officers, killed by these police officers should move anybody. And that's the only part that I feel like I kind of have an interest in is I'm like, yeah, we need to do something about this because this is getting out of hand. Like, and I think like some people say it's probably always been there, but now
Mm-hmm.
we have the cameras and the mobile devices and we have the awareness. So it's like, okay, there's no excuse now for you to turn a blind eye because it's in your face. It's on national news now.
But we see the
Yeah.
laws are written in a way where they're still getting away with it. We see it.
Yeah,
We
they are.
know it's not. It shouldn't happen, but it's not some way somehow. Again, here we go to the politics, Meagan, because we hadn't been involved when laws are being passed, when we have all
Right.
these
Yeah.
referendums on the ballots, and oftentimes people don't go to vote because it's just something minor. It's not a major election.
Mm-hmm.
You're not understanding that these little small minor changes end up being big for our community,
Right.
and that's what's happening. We don't have representation the way we should to get the message out that hey, you need to get to the polls. This is how this is gonna impact you, and the media plays a part into it. When
Mm-hmm.
Clinton was president, and we put this three strikes, life in prison law into place, and because they had built up this whole crack situation
Yeah.
and marijuana
Mm-hmm.
situation in our communities, and we were seeing a lot of discourse in our community and a lot of crime had gone up. We thought that was a good idea, not understanding the long-term effects of that. So I think there's a man, I can't remember what state, I should have remembered his name and what state. I want to say it's Louisiana, that's in prison for stealing like $20 or something. But because it was his third strike, he was given a life sentence, and it all had been little petty crimes. And so when these laws are, put in place, you better believe it's always in a way to impact the Black community the most. And we need to be the first ones at the poll. But if we are always committing crimes that's giving us these felonies that then take our voting rights away, and then we fail to follow through once we're released from prison to make sure that we can get our voting rights back, then we are off the road. We can't vote. And if you notice, crime rates, they're pretty high. The average age of these criminals now 14, 15, 16 years old. So you're getting felonies, some capital murder felonies at 14 and 15. You probably never be able to vote. You never voted, and you'll never be able to vote. And now they're arresting protesters, aren't they, Dice? And they're trying to charge some of them with felonies. I think
Oh
they did
yeah.
that
Oh
in
yeah.
Kentucky, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to
Yep.
Yeah.
understand what the intent of this is. So the few of us that's eligible to vote, then we lose our voice.
Yeah.
So we can't make change.
And that is, I will say, is amongst like our generation, that is probably, I agree with what you were saying earlier about we still have a ways to go on the unity tip as far as like Black people. But for our age group, I'm pretty impressed with just like the people I know who once upon a time didn't care anything about voting, and now they're kind of some of the main ones who are like, okay, well, don't forget your local election is this day, and okay, we're voting on this, we're voting on that. And I know that across Georgia there have been, over the past couple of years, some pretty tight like local elections because more people are getting out. And I think that's that's shaking up some of these big names a little bit, because now they know that we know
Mm-hmm.
where we need to be and when we need to be there. And so I'm excited. I'm prepping myself for waiting in line November 3rd, because they try to discourage you by making it difficult and
Right.
hours and hours of waiting in line, but I can do it. Um
And
on that
let me
note,
well let me say one more thing, Meagan, too. Let me put this out here to you all and to your listeners. If you have candidates in your local states or other states that you really support, why not donate $5 or $10? Because they really need the money for the campaign. And so that's what I've decided to do this year. No matter what state, if there's a candidate that I like, or if somebody I'm familiar with, in Georgia, you got Reverend Warnock. I'm very familiar with him. I've donated a couple of times uh, to his campaign. So if you have candidates that you really like, I say give them $5, give them 10, help them build their campaign funds so they can get out there and push their agenda and hopefully win these elections. We need people that we support and we believe in place.
amen. I really like this young guy who's running in Georgia, but we'll get into that later. um we wanted to touch on colorism if we could, because I know that we talk about this all the time, and like between myself, Jordan, and Dice, we got like three different skin tones going on here. But we talk about all the time just like the stereotypes, and I think it's really important just to look at like, was it this bad always, or has it just progressively gotten worse, or has it gotten better and maybe we like just don't realize it's nothing compared to what it used to be? I mean, I don't know. How do y'all feel about it?
I think it's gotten better. Um, it's always been around, but I think it has gotten better. I could say with you and Jordan, you all are part of an organization that normally your skin color wouldn't have been a part of that organization. So I think that's an indication that things have progressed. Sadly, but it shouldn't have never been an issue because we come in all shades. And so but it has been an issue in the past. I mean, when I was in college, if you were, the lighter you were, the prettier you were to the guys. The longer your hair, it was about your hair. If your hair was nice and soft and fine, and you were prettier, if you had that kinky curly hair. And I think that's why we fought so hard to get those perms, to try to get it as straight as possible. You couldn't change your skin color. We wasn't really into, although bleaching has been around for a long time, but most of us was not into that bleaching thing. So it was there, and it was relevant, but I think it has gotten better. I think people are a little bit more open, and it's about time.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I guess I'm just thinking about like I guess some of the ignorance that I see amongst, our generation with people and their stereotypes. Have the stereotypes of, dark skinned women kind of being like less polished, the more loud, whatever, more ghetto, but light skinned women being, more put together, more kind of prim and proper. Like, has that kind of always been the case, or is that something that's kind of newer? I've always been curious to know that, because I see a lot of people put that stereotype on darker women a lot. Like they expect them to be, uneducated. They expect them to be just ignorant about a lot of things. They expect them to be ghetto. They don't expect them to speak, I guess, in a normal way where average person could understand them. Like there are just so many stereotypes on them.
I heard Jordan mention something about that lately, and I was surprised to hear that. I guess when I think about it, it has always been there. There is some research, and it's probably from the 60s or 70s that talked about the fact that teachers would not look directly to at or teach directly to the dark skinned children in the classroom. They always focused on the lighter complected children in the classroom. So I'm not sure what that whole idea is all about. I don't know what that stereotype is all about. It has been around. I remember, but it was not. I can't remember it being, say, hurtful. It was never done in a hurtful way. Now, if the teacher were not looking directly at a dark skinned child, then I never picked up on that, and I didn't realize that. But just growing up in my community, I don't recall any problems. I never heard anybody say anything negative about anybody complexion. So, and then I went to a HBCU for college, so we were all colors. But I do know that it was pretty obvious, like I said, that there was some organizations you didn't see dark skinned girls in those organizations. You mostly saw lighter, brighter skinned girls. So, but I don't recall any real conversations or anybody saying anything. So it was kind of what covertly, if it was being done, maybe it wasn't intentional. It was just it had become a norm. Maybe it was just something people did, and they just didn't think about what they were doing. I don't think they intentionally tried to hurt people. But now I do know, um, you know, as I got older and had children, and so my Jordan is a chocolate baby. We had this experience. I don't know if she ever shared this with you all. I try to make it fast. We were in a restaurant in Nebraska once, and a little girl, Jordan was only two herself, and a little girl, just around 3, she saw Jordan, and I think she thought Jordan was a doll. Actually, when she first walked up to her, she just looked at her, and she walked away, and she got back to her seat, and then she couldn't take her eyes off of her, and then she walked back over to her, and she looked at her again, and then she touched her, and she rubbed her arm, and she ran off, and she looked at her hand. And so she was trying to see if Jordan was dirty. And so I had to get
Oh
her
Lord.
parents' attention to say, hey, this is what she just did. And this was in like 1998 or 99.
Wow.
And you know what the mom said to me? She said, I think this maybe is her first time seeing a black person in life, in full life. She's seen you on TV. I'm sorry, but she's never seen you in life. And so
Mm.
she was very apologetic. But I told her, I said, shame on you. Here we are. I did. I said, shame on you to not
Mhm.
allow this baby to see
That's
more
just what I
than
was
just
thinking.
you all.
Hmm.
I said, and I'm offended that she would come and wipe my baby's arm to see if she was dirty. So I said that had some, to me, that had to do with some conversations in the house, unless the people she had been around, when anytime they were darker, they were dirty. So it still just spoke volumes to me about that family. But I think that was the first time, honestly, in my whole life that color just really hit me. Now, look, when I was growing up, we had in our doctor's office, we had a black waiting room and a white waiting room. You didn't go in the
Oh
same waiting
wow.
room, but it was different. But that day when that little girl did that, I mean, that really it brought tears to my eyes for Jordan and for that little girl. And Jordan, being the feisty little thing she was like, why did she do that? Why did she do that? She didn't understand that at all. And
I can imagine.
yeah, but it was sad. It was sad on to me for that little girl too, to say that she had never seen a black person in life. Um, so
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah, so that colorism thing. So you see it in our own communities. You see it a lot in our own communities. And then, of course, you're seeing it outside of our communities. But I'm hoping that this thing is going to fade. I think the media has done a good job in making it clear that all women are beautiful, no matter the color,
Mhm.
no matter the race. And so I will give them credit for really building that up. And I've seen that more and more, I'll say over the last year or so. You're seeing more models of really dark complexion, and they're highlighting those women. So I think we're going to see maybe that whole concept kind of fade a little bit more, hopefully. Hopefully.
I know one thing that's different now that I imagine probably didn't happen back then is the white people wanting to be black to the point where they are pretending, like Rachel Dolezal, for example.
Ex-
She's probably the most prominent example I could think of, but yeah,
Exactly.
I agree with that.
I don't recall ever a white person wanting to be black, pretending to be
Right.
black until that, recently. There might have been some black people pretending to be white because they were
Right.
right there on the board and you couldn't really tell. So it might have been a
Mm-hmm.
lot of black people that went for white, but I don't recall ever knowing anybody wanting to be black. And there was a young girl recently, I think that had gotten a college scholarship or something, gotten her graduate degree using that affirmative action opportunity, pretending
Mm-mm.
to be black, and she's not. Of course, she's not black at all, but that's the first. So look, you don't want me, but you want to be me. So I say maybe now they're
Right.
planning on replacing us with themselves. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Well, and see what it is I just feel like, they want you want the perks, you want the beauty that you think and that you observe comes with being black, but you don't want the problems. You
Mm-hmm.
want
And they
the
want the culture.
yes, you
Mm-hmm.
want the culture, you want to seem
Mm-hmm.
cool, you want the body, you want the
You want to
music.
say the N word because that's the
Yes,
thing.
that's
They want to say the N word.
oh my god, so
Mm-hmm.
bad,
Well,
so
have they
bad.
not said it enough? Are they
And
not
that's
tired of saying it?
Exactly.
exactly,
Good Lord.
exactly.
And
That's how I feel. Have you not gotten enough, just
what?
historically, of saying it?
And it's funny. One time we were so ugly. We were this. We were that. Oh gosh, if you were curvy, oh my God, you wasn't healthy. All of these things. And so now you get injections. You blowing your lips
Mm-hmm.
up. That Rachel, she even did something to her hair, didn't she? To try to get her hair a little bit more
Like,
kinky.
Yeah, and
something.
all she does now is keep these braids and stuff in, so I guess she could try to keep the mystery going, but she loves a braids and some in a
In a
wig,
wig. So
in a curly wig.
I'm not understanding what benefits do they think they're getting.
I have no idea.
I
No
don't know
idea.
either. Like, I think for some younger folks, obviously, it's a marketing thing. They know that they can appeal to more people if they have, I guess, that look or whatever. If they dress a certain way, if they get their body done a certain way, they can bring in more people who would be willing to buy their products or go see their movie or whatever it is that you do. But no, for the people who are like, like that Rachel Dolezal, I never understood what she got out of that. I never understood. Like, that baffled me that she thought she had to pretend to be black to show that she is a supporter for black people and their rights and etc. As if she
I mean, I
would be
will
the
give
first
her
white person to try to say, I want to help black people. That baffled
I'll
me.
give her a small amount of credit because at least she tried to do something positive with her fakeness.
Yeah.
Unlike some of these celebrities who are just, ripping off black women and their style and their culture and the hair and everything and not doing anything to better the black community. So I'm like, at least she did that, but it was still wrong.
Yeah.
And, people argue too that that's privilege. The fact that she was able to pretend to be black is a privilege because black people most of the time cannot pass for white.
Mm-hmm.
There are very few of us who are pale enough to be able to pass for white.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're saying that's privilege in and of itself that you can just choose, oh, I'm just going to be another race today.
Look,
It's just ridiculous.
no matter what you try to do, you can never be us. We are amazing people. It's not just about our outside, but it's what's on the inside. And so you can,
Hmm.
darken your skin and tease your hair and braid it if you want, but you still will never be us. And
All
so
right now.
we're see, we've always known what we were. We are it. We are the it. So yeah, I can see. Okay, I do see why you want to be it, but you'll never be. So just
Right.
pretend. You're just pretending. You'll never be.
That's a great way to end this discussion. You will never be us. You can't sit with us.
Yeah.
But see, and that's just it, Dice, though. That's just it. The tables are turning and some people can't handle it.
It's about
You know,
time. It's
Mm-hmm.
about time.
we spent
Unity,
so
unity.
long having to, suppress what we thought about our beauty, our minds, whatever it is that makes, being black so special. Now we're getting to this point to where people are loud and proud,
Mm-hmm.
and it's certain people who can't handle it. But well, why can't
Exactly.
I be a part of it? No, 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 no. This is for us.
Yep. You've tried to suppress it too long. Now we're free. We're free.
Oh man, no, no, I agree 100%. I know me and my mama talk about this all the time. Okay, y'all, I know you're waiting on it. We are about to get into our Not Your Average News segment, and Dice is going to kick us off with some fun facts about our fave, Beyonce.
Yes, I just thought this was interesting, so I just want to throw it in here that Beyonce's name was actually her mother's last name. So, Mama Tina, her last name was Beyonce. And she said that how that came to be was, I guess, when her mother had her and her brother, the hospital messed up on the spelling of the name. And so where the O is actually supposed to be an I. So I don't know if it's supposed to be Biency or Bience or something like that. But either way, it's like a French name. And she said that her mother tried to argue with the people to change the name, and they basically told her, you're lucky to be getting a birth certificate at all because you're black, and really y'all don't count, something like that. And so in their family, some people's last name is spelled with the I, and then some people's is spelled with the O because it's wrong. So, anyways, I thought that was a good fun fact about Beyonce. Kind of sad though, but interesting to know.
I never knew that. You just blew my mind, child. Um,
Well, look, check this out. My middle name is Teresa, and my mom spelled it Teresa. And the nurse changed it and put an H in it. So it was never supposed to be Theresa.
Oh,
So they would do that. They would do that. And my mom was a teacher. So, of course, she knew how she wanted it to be
right. She
spelled, but
knew what
she
she
changed,
wanted.
she knew what she wanted. So, yeah.
they just took it into their
They
own
took it
hands, do
into
what they
their,
want to do.
exactly, exactly.
Who child? That's why I got to try to have my future kids at a midwife center or something.
They
I
probably were
can't with
like,
these
"Oh, she just
people.
made a mistake. Let me put that H in there."
Yeah, exactly. No, you just have to, you
No.
all can stand up to them now.
Yeah,
Back
Yeah,
then,
now we
it was,
can.
you were just lucky to be at the hospital. So.
that's so sad.
Yeah.
Um, all right, y'all. Cardi B filed for divorce allegedly. I have not seen where she's confirmed, so I am gonna put allegedly on there. But another allegation that's kind of been floating around in the blogs is that apparently people are saying that Offset hasn't been faithful throughout the entire marriage, and she just finally got fed up. Now, from what I read, it's not like there's been a long-standing affair. There just have been several women in between during the whole marriage. I'm sure eventually the truth will reveal itself, but I always say, props to her for being willing to recognize what she does and doesn't deserve and moving on, and maybe the next man will recognize what he has.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not
Um,
touching this one, y'all. I'll leave it.
it's okay. There's enough people out there talking about it, so it's okay.
Mhm.
This one is personally near and dear to my heart, and I was just so devastated. So I don't know if any of you or any of you listeners have watched Netflix's Cheer series. Oh my goodness. So Jerry Harris, who was just this beloved member of that cheer team. I mean, everybody loved Jerry. Jerry was super positive. He was so supportive, such a sweet guy. And he has been accused of child pornography and has been placed under arrest. And I was in complete shock. And I'm not going to take too long on this because I'm just so devastated. But I was in complete shock by it. I was like, there's just no way that he did something like that. And basically, they said that it was through Snapchat. He was conversing with 13-year-old boys. I think there were two of them that we know about. And they were sending, lewd images like, ooh, y'all, this is not, I'm sorry, I apologize if you were sensitive to these topics as you should be. But yes, they were exchanging lewd images. And, at one point, I think one of the kids or both of the kids were in like a cheer program with him. And supposedly there was some actual in-person sexual things that took place. So again, Jerry Harris is a grown man. These are tweens, 13-year-old kids, and they were involved. And there's even another rumor flying about, and I don't know if this is true, there's a rumor flying about the payments. So supposedly he was making payments to one of the kids'
Ooh,
parents or something.
child.
Like it's getting real
This is too
weird.
much.
But I will say the only thing that made it to the actual legitimate news was that they were 13 and that there was Snapchat exchanges of inappropriate images in a possible in-person incident. So, obviously Jared Harris, this is it for him. Whether it's true or not, which is kind of looking like it's true, this is over. This is it.
I've never seen Cheer. Now I think I'll go watch it. I mean,
Oh
it
my
was one of those
gosh.
ones that it's one of those Netflix things to where like I've been meaning to watch it, but I just haven't. But wow, I hope if it's true, I'm just gonna say this and then we can move on. Man, he don't realize how far he just set us back on the whole male cheerleader thing. Cause it has taken a long time for people not to be so judgmental or stereotypical about men who are cheerleaders, which that's always been stupid to me. Cause don't you think they need help to lift the girls like at some point? But
Hmm.
he just set us back with that one. And then
And men started it, so
he's
there's
black.
that.
He black.
Mhm.
Lord have mercy.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's terrible.
devastated.
Yeah.
Well, on the note of black people, the Emmys took place not too long ago, of course, virtually, because y'all know COVID. And black actors made history with the most wins ever, 23 total, y'all. So I was so excited. I watched majority of it. Special shout out to Zendaya, y'all. She made history to be the youngest person to receive an Emmy for Best Lead Actress in a Drama. Super exciting. She is just trailblazing right through her career, setting the tone for young black women. I hope y'all caught it. I don't know if y'all caught it or not, but I watched a good bit of the Emmys because I love stuff like that.
I saw a little bit of it. I'm not. I know Zendaya, but I got to remember if I've seen that movie or not. Sadly,
Oh
I
Lord, you got to talk
I
to
was gonna
Jordan
I
because
say
she will definitely
when
put you
Jordan
on.
hears this, she gonna be
she's
like,
gonna have a fit.
she gonna be like, we gonna
Yes,
watch that show next time we together. She gonna make
she
you binge
loves
watch.
Zendaya, so that's you're not gonna be able to run away from
Oh
that
Uh-uh.
my
one. You're gonna
goodness.
definitely know very
She gonna
Oh
soon.
make you
my
sit
goodness.
down and watch everything Zendaya's ever been in. Megan the Stallion, cousin Meg, graced the cover of Time magazine. She was named one of the most influential people in the world. Y'all know we stan Meg over here. I just love her. So excited for her, and I think she's just gonna keep continuing to crush it. Did you see the cover, Dice?
I
She looked
did, I
good.
did. It was very Grecian.
Yeah,
They went with a Grecian feel,
she looked.
but I know they couldn't have her on Time magazine with no clothes on, so they had to put something else. Because we know Megan like to wear no clothes,
Yeah,
so they probably like, "Girl, we gonna let you show this leg, and that's
as
it."
little as possible. Yes, but she looked
Yeah.
good. I was proud. And then unfortunately, I mean, don't want to spend too much time on it, but I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that the other night Tory Lanez released an album. Pretty much, I heard there were 17 songs on it. I refuse to listen to it. He's not gonna get that stream or that dollar, however much they get from me. But he released an album and it was pretty much disputing Meg's claim that he shot her, which is the last thing I expected to hear because, well, then who shot her? I mean, they've already said that her best friend didn't do it. Are you saying that your bodyguard slash driver, whoever he was, is the one who shot her? Like, that's not much better. Um, so, I just think sad. And then in the midst of all this stuff going on with Breonna Taylor at that, like, just, another example at how we have so much work to do because Black women just have to work so hard to be believed and then respected. And personally, I think he took an L. He should have got on live or did an interview with Oprah like everybody else when a scandal happens. But he chose to release an album and, profit off of her pain and experience. So stay tuned on that. I mean, he claims he didn't shoot her, y'all. So at this point, it's
Oh
it's
my
it's to
goodness,
your own interpretation. You decide
it's
who
a
you want to
never-ending
believe.
story. It just needs to
Yeah,
end.
he's not going to admit to it. So I guess she shot herself. Is what he's saying.
Well, from my perspective, this brings in another dynamics. We were talking about dating and since we are all Black women in our communities, it's time for accountability too. So this kind of goes along with that. I think, um, you know, the man has to be a man, and he has to be accountable for his actions. And I don't think just
Mm-hmm.
because you are somebody famous, you get to not be accountable. And so for him to not even acknowledge or admit what he done, and the fact that she saved him, she didn't tell the cops initially what happened, trying to avoid him being hurt or injured, or herself being hurt or injured. So you see how, we got a lot of work to do in our community, because the
Mm-hmm.
woman must be respected. I think LeBron James said it the best, that the Black woman is the least respected uh, human being in the United States, or maybe even in the world, he said. So, but we're gonna have to hold our Black men accountable. That's sad. She didn't shoot herself. So he needs to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw LeBron
Mm-hmm.
James post. He was using a snippet of that quote from Malcolm X. I actually put that up the other day when they announced like news on the Breonna Taylor case, which I'm gonna let Dice, just give our listeners a little bit of update about the lack of justice that we're still facing for Breonna Taylor.
Yes. So obviously Jordan's usually our legal person. And so since she's not here, I'm just going to say what she wrote for us. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all because I don't want to mess any of it
We're
up.
not
And
lawyers.
she can, we are not lawyers. We are not in law school. We rely on Jordan heavily for all that. But basically, as you all probably are aware of, there was no justice for Breonna Taylor. Officer Brett Hankinson was indicted with 3 charges of first-degree wanton endangerment. I hope that's how that's said. Jurors said several bullets he fired outside of Taylor's apartment on March 13th went into a neighboring unit where a pregnant woman, a man, and a child were home. So basically, to put that in layman's terms, that officer was not indicted for his actions that led to the actual killing of Breonna Taylor.
But he was
So basically, nothing
indicted for
happened.
the disturbance to the people next door. I just,
Exactly.
to be Black in this country, man, I just, child, I don't know. I know God be knowing what he doing, because only Black people could handle like all this stuff on our shoulders. So killing her meant nothing, but,
Yep.
oh, we're sorry to the family who live next door. What? Like, I never would have imagined that they would make this about them. Like, I don't understand. And I saw someone make a great point on Twitter. This lady, she's a Black woman, she's a nurse. She's like, I'm just gonna break this down for y'all. She was like, if I go into the wrong room with the wrong medicine and give it to the wrong patient and they die, I'm going to lose my job, lose my license, and then go to jail. Why is it not the
Mm-hmm.
same with this situation? You were in the wrong home, you killed you well, it shouldn't have been killing anyone, but the person who died was not who you were looking for. I don't see why it's not as simple as you lose your job, you go to jail, just like with any other profession. I don't understand.
Well,
Their whole excuse.
the
Go ahead, Miss
thing here
Val.
is, and look, I agree with you all totally. But the thing here is, actually, Megan, they were in the right home. They were in the home that they intended to go to. They knew what they were doing, and the reason they're saying that they're not being charged is because they announced themselves as police officers. They have a right. They had a no knock warrant. I don't. So I guess once they bust in, then they said with the police. And then once her boyfriend shot at them, then they had a right to defend themselves. And ironically, I think they did shoot him, but they killed her. So,
Yep.
and long story short, when you, I guess, lay out the evidence, I'm a TV lawyer. Uh, I'm a TV lawyer. When you lay out the evidence, they did nothing wrong, is what they're saying, and
Yeah,
that's why they're not being charged, because they intended to go into her apartment. And then there's
right.
so many other things circulating. I noticed. I ran across a TikTok video last night, and they have a video. I don't know how legitimate it is, but they show the officers after the shooting walking through what they had done and talking it out, so as though to make sure they all had their stories together,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and removing any evidence. But long story short, They went into the apartment they intended to go into, not considering the fact that the person they was looking for had already been arrested, but they just had every intention of going into her apartment anyway. And
Right.
so Miss Candice Owens and some of the others are trying to downplay who she was and say she was heavily involved. So I don't know. I haven't seen any of that to prove that she was involved. They talk about a car that she had rented some years ago, I think, and they found the body in the car that she had rented and blase, blase, blase. So I don't know what that had to do. I think that was 6 years ago to what transpired that night on March 13th, because surely you wouldn't wait 6 years later to try to arrest somebody that you
Exactly.
suspected. So, but anyway, you hear a lot of narrative. The one thing America is good at is trying to victimize. I mean, trying to criminalize the
Mm-hmm.
victim,
Mhm.
trying to always bring out the negative of the victim
They try to justify the
and
death.
try to justify it. But it sounds to me like they went in there with every intent to kill. Because
They
look,
did.
if it
Every
had been a
intent.
reversal and we had gone into a white person's apartment, they would have done the exact same thing,
Mhm.
and they would have shot at the police. And had the policeman been black, probably all hell would have broke loose, and we
Oh
would have been
yeah.
trying to defend their actions. So we got a long way to go, y'all. We got a long
Yeah.
way to go.
And I do remember reading that. I do remember reading about how they did intend to go like into her apartment, but it's not her that they were technically looking for. I think like when I watched all the stuff on the news, because at some point I was like, I gotta stop watching stuff about this case. It's just too much. But I think for me it was just like the lack of attention to detail. Like you were saying, like they didn't even know that the person they were looking for had already been arrested. You know,
Mm-hmm.
how on the job are you? I mean, I don't know if they were like having drinks, having donuts, whatever before they went in. Like, but it's just it's just so much neglect, and I hate that that resulted in not only her losing her life. I know her family got that money, but money can't fix what
Mm-mm.
happened. And I
Mm-mm.
think, I don't know, maybe some people would disagree with me, but for me it's almost like I would almost rather not have the money. You mean to tell me that you're going to stand there in a court of law and say that, oh yeah, we'll indict him for endangering the neighbors, but nothing for the death, nothing for you. Sorry, it's just what
Well,
it is.
I think the media has done an excellent job at demonizing Black people.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think
Mm-hmm.
everybody they fear Black people, and so I'm sure because I mean, look at how Black policemen handle Black people,
Yep.
and so we've
Yep.
been criminalized. We've been what is it? We're just these villainized, and with evil and demons, and so they just come at us with a very negative, I think, just fearful behavior, and that
Yep.
is sad because that's truly not who we are.
Mhm.
And that, I think, is a reflection. Most of these police departments are being trained by this guy who teaches them this whole knee press and all of these tactics that are meant to really disable, to possibly kill the people. But if you see, when a white police officer arrests or attempt to arrest a white person, they rarely use any of these tactics. They
Mhm.
only use these
Mm-hmm.
tactics on Black people. And so I
Yep.
can only imagine what the conversation is, because in their mind, they fear us. Because in white
Yep.
people's mind, they think we hate them. That's what I think. I think they think we hate them. And look, I
Mm-hmm.
can understand why they think that. But we don't. That's the sad part, is we don't hate them. And so they come at you with that whole mindset, with that whole idea that,
On
hey,
the
they hate us,
defense.
they're gonna hurt us.
Yeah.
And so I just gotta protect
Yep.
myself. And that's not, so if you've ever had a traffic stop, when the cop come up to the car, they come very aggressive and defensive. They don't
Mhm.
want to tell you why they stopped you, and it's very demanding, and
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
it's downright disrespectful.
Yeah.
It's really disrespectful.
Yep.
So
They think we can't control ourselves and that we're inherently violent, so we're just going to fly off the handle as soon as they come up to us.
right,
Yeah,
right.
they come in on the defensive mode
And I
immediately.
think the media has caused that. I think the media has really
Absolutely.
caused that. And
Yeah.
so now
Yeah.
we're having to try to defend that whole mindset that that's not who we are. That we are humans, but I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So we got a lot of work still to do.
We do, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's just sad all the way around, honestly, the way that we're treated. I do look forward to the day where hopefully we can say, "Oh, that was then, this is now." But we'll see. I know that's a long time from now, but I do want to acknowledge really quick that so today is September 27th. By now, everyone already knows, and you'll especially know if you didn't know. Now you know. Just wanted to acknowledge the passing of Ruth Gator Ginsburg, such an awesome lady, really paved a lot of paths for women just to have some of the rights that we should have already had, in this country. And she passed away, was a great, great, great lady. I was looking forward to them replacing her with someone of equal stature on the Supreme Court, but we'll see how that goes. But I did just want to acknowledge her passing, and she fought hard and she did a lot of work. And a lot of us, just as women, definitely can thank her for some of the basic things that we're able to do today on our own without a man. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And, for those who didn't know, definitely pay your respects in some sort of way. But we thank y'all so much for listening in. We are so excited to have Miss Val on with us. Hopefully this will not be the last time y'all get to hear her opinions, but make sure you tune in for the next episode of Not Your Average Black Girls.
Bye.
Bye.